Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Batman Beyond review series. And today I'm here once again to provide an audio commentary watch along for another episode from the show's first season. This time it's The Winning Edge, one of my all-time favorites from season one. And this was more or less the show's attempt at the whole don't do drugs in sports type of episode, which for the most part actually works very well. And the message isn't really forced down your throats and it doesn't come across as preachy. So I thought they did a really good job handling the whole drug aspects that goes on in athletics and in sports. And this was very good. This was a really good episode. And this episode features one of the original Batman's greatest opponents ever, the one and only Bane. Now, Bane does play a very important role in this episode, but not in the way you think. Now, for those of you who have seen this episode already, and for those of you who are familiar with Bane, Bane does appear in this episode, but not in the way you would expect. Now, when you think of Bane, you think of the big hulking guy in the black vest, in the leather pants, and the big military boots, and he's got the leather gimp mask with the spiked collar, tubes around the back of his head, all the way to his arms, and he's just a powerhouse. And it's interesting when you think about it. Bane, considered by many to be perhaps the toughest opponent Batman has ever faced, his appearances in the DCAU are not as many as you would think for a guy like Bane. So, Bane made his first appearance in BTAS in an episode simply called Bane, and that was more or less the show's semi adaptation of the classic Nightfall story arc, but a more condensed version of that story arc. And Bane also appeared in TNBA in an episode called Over the Edge, which is a fantastic episode. And Bane also appeared in an episode of Superman the Animated Series in a crossover episode of Superman and Batman called Nighttime, which is probably my favorite Superman Batman crossover episode of all time. And Bane pretty much got the tar kicked out of him by Superman in Batman costume. And Bane also appeared in a tie-in animated movie called Batman Mystery of the Batwoman, where he was one of the main villains for that movie. But other than that, Bane hasn't really been in much episodes of the DCAU, which I suppose in itself is a good thing because as much as I love Bane, there's only so much you can do with a big guy. I mean, in another continuity, which I've mentioned already, called Nightfall, Bane broke Bruce Wayne's back and pretty much put him into semi retirement. And that's about it. Obviously, he took over Gotham and we had the whole stuff with Azrael, but there's only so much you can do with a big guy like Bane. Now, I remember first watching The Winning Edge on CITV about 100 years ago, and I remember it being very good. I remember it was a fantastic episode, and I rewatched the entire series of Batman Beyond about 5 years ago, back in 2020, And when I came to this episode, The Winning Edge, it was as good as I remembered, if not better. It was very well executed. The story was well told. The whole mystery surrounding Bane's involvement was very intriguing. And I thought the reveal was pretty good. I thought it was an interesting twist. And basically, what this whole episode mainly focuses on, because as I said earlier, Bane does play a very important role in this story, but that's not really what this is all about. This isn't about Bane causing trouble in that sense. This was more about a gang of boys at Terry McGinnis's school in the hockey team have got super strength and not on a normal level. And this was more or less their take on athletes getting juiced up. So Terry and Bruce have to try and figure out who is supplying these high school kids at Terry's school with this mysterious drug. And I like it. And the thing that I have always enjoyed about Batman Beyond, and I don't think it gets talked about as much as BTAS slash TNBA, is the detective story. And I love a good detective story if it's well done and it's well executed. And, having Terry McGinnis in detective mode, trying to learn the truth about what's really going on with all of his high school mates was very interesting. And, you know, a lot of the earlier episodes, they're all great, but it was just more like action sequences. We never really got to see Terry McGinnis put his detective head on. So for this episode, we kind of got to see that, Terry McGinnis looking for clues and trying to solve the mystery. So this was a very good detective story, and the whole thing with Bane's mysterious connection and involvement just made for a very great story, in my opinion. So with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk and watch The Winning Edge. Okay, here we go. Three, two, one. Do 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 do. Love it. And here we are, the intro of Batman Beyond. Never get tired of seeing this. Still gives me chills more than 20 plus years later. So, the winning edge. How does Bane fit into all of this? I do wonder. It's funny because, the thing about Bane that I've always liked is, he's such a big, strong guy. And as I said earlier, he's had very few appearances in the DCAU. But anytime Bane does make an appearance, it's always a big deal, and it's not going to be easy. And he always presents himself as a true physical challenge. So we do kind of get a nice homage to that, but in a different way. So here we go. So we get a little cameo appearance from the Jokers. It's funny, season one, we didn't really get to see the Jokers that much. I remember they appeared in Rebirth Part 1 and a little cameo in Golem and The Winning Edge. So we see the Jokers have bought a load of weapons. I could have some laughs with this one. Nasty. And here comes Batman. It's the Bat! I never realised there's one Joker there. He looks kind of like Marilyn Manson. I realised that. And the main guy, J-Man, we've talked about this before. Looks just like the Joker. Nice. So Batman has more or less broken up this little buy and sell. Good start, I must say. A very good start. Anytime you get Batman and clowns, it's always a good day. So by this point, Terry's more or less trying to juggle being a high school kid and being a crime fighter. These late nights are too much for you. It's not the nights are terrible, it's the mornings. Yeah, you see, I said this before that, you know, Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis, they're two different Batmen because Bruce would go out and fight crime and he would sleep it off because he's a billionaire. Terry, on the other hand, he had to fight crime and then the next day go to school. Not cool. Not cool at all. Yeah. So here is the hockey team. Hockey Beyond, if you will. Yeah, this was quite a unique mixture of NFL meets hockey, or as we call it here, rugby, which I do not like. It's a rough sport. So this is where we start to see the athletes getting juiced up. So here we go. Now, this little patch here, which they call slappers. Don't ask me why. I didn't write this episode, okay? So this gives them super strength. So this was how they were able to win all their matches. So you can see one of the main players, he's absolutely beefed up and he just pretty much sends one of the players flying. So obviously Terry senses that something's not right. So this is the start of Terry getting his detective head on and trying to solve the mystery, if you will. So we see Terry walks Dana back home, and his excuse is he's very tired, which isn't really an excuse, it's actually the truth. Terry is very tired, but then so would you if you were doing high school and crime fighting at the same time. And Bruce has picked up a signal that we've got some late night shoppers trying to rob phones and TVs. Oh wow. Virtual reality swimwear. Shui. Uh, TVs. Hey, look, I'm on the big screen. 500 channels, nothing good to watch. Couldn't agree more, Terry. Couldn't agree more. So, Terry learns that one of the robbers is a guy who goes to his school named Mason. I know they're wearing balaclavas, but they do look very similar to the mask that Bane wears. And there is the patches, or as they call them, slappers. It's over, Mason. And now we see he has doubled his strength, Bane style. Boom, boom. Yeah, I'm ripping. I know they probably wouldn't have done this, but would have been interesting if the show did their take on Nightfall. Just would have liked to have seen how that could have been handled. So Terry has learned now that guys from his school are getting juiced up on patches called slappers. I'm trying really hard to keep saying that with a straight face. I really am. Would have preferred if they just called them skin patches or something. I don't know, but it just takes a while to say that without laughing. Yeah. So you can see Mason's not looking very good. So they got the credit card to get more. Hey, you don't look so good. No, I'm all right, really. So while these skin patches give these athletes super strength, there is a price, of course. And there's our mysterious buyer. There you go. Wow. Here we go. Look at this. Creepy. This was what was very good about this episode. You know, the whole don't do drugs in sports was handled very well. And Terry obviously has got his suspicions. And now here's where we see Terry in detective mode. You know, something we would start to see over the course of time, but this was pretty much the first episode where Terry is more or less trying to solve the mystery. And there's the coach. Yeah. See, I thought watching this episode, I actually thought the coach was behind all of this. I mean, he does play a part in this whole sham, so to speak, but he wasn't actually the one responsible for his players having these patches. Would have been a good twist if it was him, but I kind of glad it wasn't him because it would have been too obvious. And this is a classic domestic scene we're getting here. So Terry's mum, Mary, finds the skin patches in Terry's bag and she starts to suspect that maybe her son is doing drugs. So this was a really good scene. We've kind of seen these sort of things before in media, but I thought the way they handled it for a DC cartoon was very well done. Terry, what are those? They're not mine, honest. These are slappers. I've seen these on the news. The late nights. Now it's beginning to make sense. Mom, it's not what you think. Oh, yeah. Damn it, Matt. Please, you gotta believe me. I don't want to hear any more about it. You're grounded. Classic. And now, this is where things get really good. So, she'll let me go to work for you and go to school. Otherwise, I'm in solitary. Big time. Well, at least you managed to keep one of these. And I love this here. Any ideas how to handle this? Arch criminals I can handle. Mothers or something else. I love this. Here we go. This is where they learn the truth. What is it? Venom. A highly addictive steroidal compound. Only one man has the formula. Bane. I've heard of him. Good. As long as I'm home by 9. I told you I was in trouble. So we now learn that Bane, or so we think, is providing the boys at Terry's school with these slappers. This is a good scene here. So we learn that Bane left prison and has been living in some sort of care home. Remember, he was a formidable opponent. Be careful. Come on, the guy's a zillion years old. What trouble can an old geezer? Watch it. I thought that was a really good showing of great respect from Bruce to Bane, putting him over as a formidable opponent. Nice, classy show of respect from one legendary former fighter to another. Very classy. So Bane has more or less been living in this care home for the last 20 years since he left prison, and Bruce has been keeping an eye on him ever since. So there is Bane's carer. Interesting that this guy is never actually named in this episode, but he goes by the name Jackson Chappelle, even though he's not actually addressed by name, but that's what I learned. That's what he's called. So Terry goes into Bane's room and he's in for a big surprise. And there it is. Bane, or what's left of him, is pretty much now a vegetable. It's kind of sad, really, to see such a hulking monster reduced to a shell of what he used to be. So, after all those years of taking venom, he's pretty much now become dependent on it, and it's completely messed him up. So, he's essentially having to live on venom just to survive. Quite sad, really. So, it's a cool line here. What happened to him? Too many years on venom. That's what this stuff will do to you. So we learn now that Bane isn't the one giving the school kids the slappers. So the big question is, who is doing it? This is where things get really interesting. So we see the Mason and his friends training for the big match, and you can see the effects of using this patch card is really starting to take its toll on him. Yeah, this is where the don't do drugs thing plays a big part in this episode. Yeah, it's interesting because, as I said earlier, this did a really good job in putting the message across, but it doesn't come across as preachy and forced down your throat. And I think that's what makes this episode work so well. And obviously, with any form of addiction, there's a good rush, but eventually there's a price for it. So I think they've done a good job with that. And Batman breaks up the deal. Here we go. Yeah, so Batman puts a tracker on the car. Oh yeah, he learned from the best, no doubt about it. Oh boy. Whenever you saw that shadow silhouette, you knew it was all over. So we see Terry is following the mysterious car to the Gotham Herald, which has been abandoned for years. And there's a line here Bruce says, you know, the place has been abandoned for years, and Terry says, yeah, sure. Who reads newspapers now? That really hits home because newspapers has been a part of history for so long. So it's kind of sad to hear that. And we see that the Gotham Herald is a cover up for the creation of the slapper cards, or skin patches, if you will. No, no thanks to Batman. Somebody mentioned my name, and it turns out to be none other than Bane's carer, whose name is Jackson Chappelle. I remember Geeker Beyond said that this guy looks like a beefed up General Zod. I can see what he means. How did you cut the formula out of Bane? In the end, he just needed it to keep himself alive. So this guy fancies himself as Bane Beyond. Cool. Here we go. This fight scene was intense. Go on, Terry. Yeah, this guy, he's tough, but he's no Bane. Bane was a soldier and a tough one too, but this guy's no slouch. But I wouldn't say he's much of a fighter. He's just all brute force. Wow. Terry actually picked this guy up. He just looks crazed. You see, with a guy like Bane, yeah, it took years off his life, but he was sensible about the usage. But this guy, he just goes for the, no pun intended, kill. Love how Jackson is dressed in the same sort of attire that Bane wore when the original Batman used to battle him. Would have been cool if he put on Bane's mask. That would have been really cool to see that. Bane Beyond. Yeah, this fight was intense. So Terry throws Jackson into the box full of slappers, so he's twice as big. This was painful to watch. And to think this was shown on Sunday morning on CITV. Crazy times. I just throws Terry around like a rag doll. And he's bigger than ever. I like this. You want me, Slappy? I'm right here. I'll kill you. Yeah, he just smashes stuff. Wow. Oh, wow. That's got to be one of the most intense fights I've ever seen in Batman Beyond. Wow. Carnage. Carnage! Here we go. Where's Chappelle? Oh, God. So Chappelle has pretty much gone into a vegetative state. It's the venom. I think he had too much of a bad thing. He's pretty much comatose now. Jeez. That's mad. Oh, Mary's waiting. Here we go. I know you're mad, but sorry I'm late. My fault entirely, Mrs. McGinnis. I thought we'd come by and drop off Terry's test results tonight. He's clean. He told the truth. This is such a relief. Didn't mean to scare you, Ma. So we learn that Mason and his friends and the coach have all been taken into custody. I like what Bruce says here when Mary says, why would the coach allow it to go on like that? Because he wanted to win at any cost. So he looked the other way. Right, Terry? And, oh, Terry's crashed out. It's okay. He's had a busy night. Wow. That's cool to see old Bruce cracking a smile. That's so cute. And Mary puts a nice blanket over him. And that wraps up my audio commentary watch along for The Winning Edge. Excellent episode. Really enjoyed this one a lot. One of my all time favourites from season one. And a very powerful message. And I love the way that this episode addressed drugs going on in sports and athletics. Very well done. And very interesting way they used Bane for his story. Even though Bane didn't actually have a physical part, but he still played an emotional part of this story, and his presence was definitely felt throughout. And to see Bane in that state after all the physical torture he put Bruce through, so it's kind of like a bit of karma for him. And the whole twist with Bane's carer being the one revealed as the guy who was supplying Terry's schoolmates with these venom induced slappers was a good twist. You'd never have thought it would be Bane's carer of all people. And I liked it. This was a really good episode. And great to go back to this one once again. And as I said, it was much better than I remembered. And Bruce putting Bane over as a formidable opponent was, as I said earlier, a great showing of respect from one legendary former fighter to another. But yeah, this was great. Really enjoyed this one a lot. So anyway, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of the winning edge? Did you enjoy it? Did you like the way Bane was used for this story? And what was your reaction to seeing Bane in a vegetative state? Were you shocked? And did you like the twist with Bane's carer being revealed as the one who had the Venom formula and providing it to Terry's classmates? And what was your thoughts on the fight scene between Bane's carer and Terry? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Batman Beyond review series, where I will be back once again to provide an audio commentary watch along for another episode from season one. This time, it's going to be another favourite of mine, Disappearing Ink. So make sure you don't miss that one. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.